welcome to This Day. It is Friday, October 11th. Yesterday I said Thursday felt like Friday. Today feels like a Thursday still. Now it's a Friday, so I'm reversing things in my mind, but we'll get it straight. We hope you're in for a good weekend. Hope you have lots of fun plans. We're going to have great weather cooperating. On our show today, we want to, before you get to for your weather plans or for your weekend plans, we want to make sure you have a great show here, and we got a good one for you. RadNet, Dr. Valentina Bonev is going to be here. We're going to be talking about cancer treatments and the latest developments there. And then Sports Corner with Cole Young, all the latest developments in sports that have gone on this week, and probably some previews for this weekend, some picks, I'm guessing, for football as well. So we'll look forward to that with Cole. Right now, though, we got a good Stay Informed for you, and it is going to be today, Friday at 2 p.m. There is a United Mutual Town Hall going on. So make sure you get over to the Clubhouse 3 over the Performing Arts Center in room 2, where they're going to hold their town hall. It's an opportunity for residents of United to come out, voice any concerns, make sure that the board knows what's going on. It's a great opportunity to have an open forum discussion that isn't like as strict as the regular meetings are. So it's a real good conversation opportunity for you to let people know what's going on in your area. So get out there if you're a United member and join that town hall. Let's take a look outside at our weather, and we got some great temperatures for this weekend. Really can't complain here. We're going to have a little last bit of summer, and then we're going to have a little bit of a fall on Sunday for a Sunday football. That's great. Nice temperatures for us, really. Anything in the 70s is always nice around here. We do have the usual morning fog. Some days it's going to burn off a little earlier, and some days it's going to burn off a little later, but we got the morning fog going on in the morning, clouds, and then clearing to mostly sunny skies every day for the rest of the week and into next. So enjoy those temperatures and enjoy the sunshine out there, and get out there and have some fun this weekend. Let's take a look at our sunrise and our sunset, and we're taking a little trip to Boise, Idaho today. Thank you, Cole Young, for giving us this one. Sunrise this morning was 6:53. Sunset tonight is going to be 6:21, and that's a beautiful fall shot, really good for this time of year out there in Boise. If you'd like to send us a shot of some changing leaves in the area that we have around here over at Aliso Creek or somewhere else, sunrise shots, sunset shots, we'd love to see them. Email us, lagunawoodsvillagetv@gmail.com. Make sure you include your name, where you took the picture, and we will use it in our sunrise sunset segment. Okay, we got a couple of meetings for you. Then when we come back, we'll be talking to the folks from RadNet. Stay with us.
Who is RadNet? You've probably heard our name and seen our commercials, but you still might not know who we are. RadNet is the largest provider of outpatient imaging services in the United States, with over 8,000 employees and almost 400 imaging centers in 7 states. Likely, if you have had diagnostic imaging, you have experienced RadNet's high-quality, cost-effective imaging services. With 35 years of expertise, RadNet is leading into the future with advanced technology and the very latest AI technology. We are positioned for the future of healthcare. RadNet, leading radiology forward.
And welcome back. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the folks at RadNet and BreastLink want you to be aware of what's going on in the community. I want to welcome Dr. Valentina Bonev to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about how we get an assessment in the first place. If a woman feels like there might be something off, they're feeling a lump, is that the first place to start, or should we be starting with mammograms even if we don't think anything's wrong at a certain age?
So national guidelines recommend mammograms once a year starting at 40 years old for women who are average risk. If someone's considered high risk, such as they have a family history of breast cancer, they may start getting mammograms earlier, such as in their 30s. If a woman notes a change in their breast, like a lump, skin changes, a rash, nipple discharge, nipple inversion, we want them to go to their doctor immediately to be evaluated. The standard of care, though, is a mammogram once a year and then a breast exam once a year. So it's important that you do both because no one exam is perfect.
If there is a family history, then it should start a little earlier. Are there also genetic tests that you can take to see if you are carrying that genetic marker with you?
Correct. So we do offer genetic testing to patients who, let's say, have a family history, and maybe their mom, their sister, their aunts, their grandmother of breast cancer or other cancers such as ovarian cancer. So what genetic testing entails is it's a blood draw or it's a saliva swab if you're, not very good with blood draws. And we're testing for gene mutations that may have been passed down from your parents. And if you do test positive for a gene mutation, we know, depending on that gene, what cancer it may be associated with. So for example, you may have heard BRCA.
Right.
There are two BRCA genes. Both of them are associated with breast cancer. So we know patients who test positive for a mutation in that gene have a very high risk of breast cancer in their lifetime. So at least 60% risk of developing breast cancer.
Higher than the average.
Exactly, versus 12% for the average population. So we know that it does not mean that just because you have a gene mutation, you will 100% get that cancer, but it means that you are very high risk and that we will monitor you more closely. So it may not only just be mammograms and breast exams, it could be ultrasound, it could also be breast MRI. So it's just very important to be evaluated by your physician. Hey, do I qualify for genetic testing? Should I get it? And then talk about the potential impacts of genetic testing for that patient.
So that information is just kind of something that people can value, and they'll know, and they'll have that in there in terms of how they monitor themselves and how they get their care, right?
Correct. So it's bringing awareness. So awareness is power, and that's one of BreastLink's motto, especially for Breast Cancer Awareness Month this October. So if we are aware that you're high risk because you, let's say, have a family history or you have a gene mutation associated with breast cancer, we're going to observe you more closely.
Now, are there genetic tests that go on? Do we do that multiple times, or does the one test really kind of cover everything?
So what I offer is a comprehensive panel, which is around 71 genes tested for not only breast cancer, but ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, etc., because there's a lot of overlap with the different cancers with each other. And if you get a comprehensive panel, usually you just need one test. I've had patients who've undergone genetic testing decades ago, like maybe 10 plus years ago, and at the time, testing was very limited. So they were only tested, for example, for only two genes, BRCA1 and BRCA2. They tested negative. Now we know that there are other genes in addition to BRCA associated with breast cancer. So now when they do testing, now we do the expanded panel, and some of those patients who tested negative for BRCA actually test positive for another gene mutation that we now know of. So it's important, even if you've had testing, bring those results from the past to your physician and see, do you need to have updated expanded panel testing?
When folks get screened and they get that news that, hey, it's breast cancer, and after the test, those comes in, what is it like for someone to come into that world? It's a scary experience. There's all sorts of BRCA and all sorts of things that they're hearing for the first time. How do you as a physician not only deal with the cancer, but also the patient?
That's a great question. So a lot of the times I'm breaking the news to patients, which is like dropping a bomb on them. And I tell them, I'm gonna give you a big overview of your diagnosis and your treatment. I know it's a lot of information, but I just want you to know that this is not life-threatening, and you're gonna have a full team behind you. So at BreastLink, they're not only working with me, the surgeon, they're gonna see a medical oncologist who I'm gonna refer them to, a radiation oncologist, physical therapist for their recovery after surgery, a plastic surgeon if they're interested in reconstruction. And then we also have BreastLink Angels, which is unique to our practice. So these are former patients who've actually had breast cancer, and we link them up with our current patients who have breast cancer. So maybe I have a young mom in her 30s with 3 small kids. We're going to link her up with a BreastLink Angel who was in that similar situation, because they're going to be going through different experiences versus someone who's, let's say, 70 years old with a early stage breast cancer, right? So there is a lot of course, anxiety going into it. It's very overwhelming. And so what my job is to provide them not only the clinical support, but emotional support, and let them know that I'm calm. I'm gonna let me worry about everything. I don't want you to worry. I need you to be in a great mental state and a great physical state so you can get through your treatment successfully.
And there's a difference between, like you said, a 30-year-old young woman who is diagnosed than a 70, or the treatment plans are going to be different, right?
Yes.
The aggressiveness of the cancer might be different.
Yes.
How does the entire, like your cancer panel come together with the oncologist, you and others, and come together and make that team approach? From what treatment do we start first? Do we do surgery? Do we do chemo? Do we do radiation? How does that kind of come together?
So it's a multidisciplinary approach where we're all actively communicating with the other physicians and with the patient as well. So we discuss the patient's case, and for example, a young 30-year-old is more likely going to have an aggressive breast cancer. So we're probably going to initiate aggressive treatment, which could include chemotherapy first, followed by surgery. She may need radiation therapy. We discuss that timing as a team, then we bring it to the patient and say, hey, this is what we talked about your case, this is what we recommend, and this is why we recommend it. What, do you feel comfortable with that plan? If the patient does, great, we'll initiate treatment. If they're not, then we bring it back to the team and say, the patient's very apprehensive about chemotherapy because these are her concerns. Let's go ahead and address that. Because, for example, with chemotherapy, patients are very scared about it. Patients are also nervous going into surgery. It's very understandable. A lot of my patients, they've never had surgery before in their life, and now they have not only a breast cancer diagnosis, and then they have to undergo general anesthesia for surgery. So we're just all there to support the patient, but it's very key for us as physicians to communicate with each other, and then to communicate with the patient, and then to listen to their concerns. So why are they, let's say, against treatment? For example, some patients are like, I don't want to do radiation. Okay, why not? You know what? I don't want to do it because it's too far away from my house. It's an inconvenience. Okay, then let's find something closer to you, because the ultimate goal is to treat the patient so they never have to deal with this again.
Now, has chemo evolved over the years in terms of, like, are there more kind of biomarkers that you can tailor and make a chemo to now that where the side effects aren't as great anymore?
So chemo has definitely evolved, and honestly, the whole breast cancer treatment field has evolved to be more individualized. If when you came in, let's say 10, 20 years ago, pretty much every patient with a breast cancer diagnosis got chemotherapy, then they had a very extensive surgery where usually the entire breast was removed, and then a lot of lymph nodes were also removed. So this is a more morbid procedure with longer recovery. And then a lot of patients got probably additional chemotherapy and even radiation therapy. Now we know that patients don't need all of that therapy. In some ways, it can actually be more harmful to them. So we can tailor it based on the biological markers, and we can tell how aggressive a tumor is. So we don't have to offer such aggressive treatment to every single patient. Now, with widespread screening mammography and patients being aware of what to look for, a lot of patients are presenting very early. So with very small cancers, meaning they don't need to undergo chemotherapy. They can have a lumpectomy, which is just removing a small part of the breast. They may or may not need radiation therapy, especially if they're 70 plus years old.
I was going to say, for the older generation that watches this program here, the treatment plan has changed drastically in terms of, hey, we're not going to do the breast removal, we're just going to maybe do a lumpectomy, right?
Correct. So women who come in who are 70 plus years old with a breast cancer diagnosis are usually diagnosed with a small breast cancer that's considered less aggressive and hormone receptor positive, so expressing estrogen and progesterone receptor. If that's the case, they can undergo a lumpectomy. They probably won't need radiation, and they won't need chemotherapy. So the only other thing in addition to surgery will probably be recommended is something called endocrine therapy, which is targeting those positive receptors, and that just lowers the risk of that cancer coming back or a new cancer coming back in the future. So the point is, just because you're diagnosed doesn't mean you're going to have to undergo such extensive treatment. Patients do really well with treatment, even if they're in their 70s, because we have now tailored it down and have really made it as least invasive but with maximum treatment impact as possible.
All right, that is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If you take away any message, make sure you get your screening done and make sure you see your physician. Dr. Valentina Bonev, thank you so much for joining us from RadNet.
Thank you for having me.
You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Artistry, South Orange County's only cannabis dispensary located right here in Laguna Woods. The Artistry is your trusted source for the highest quality cannabis products and the best customer service. We offer daily deals up to 50% off on top brands. Whether you're new to cannabis or a seasoned consumer, our friendly and informative staff is here to help you elevate in style. We're located next to Gate 3 and now offer delivery right to your door. Join us for a one-of-a-kind dispensary experience.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young and there are a ton of things for me to cover this week, so I'll get right to it. After week 5, there are still 2 remaining undefeated teams left in the NFL, with the Chiefs taking down the Saints on Monday night to move to 5-0, and the Minnesota Vikings earning a win early Sunday morning in London over the Jets. Not only did the Vikings continue their perfect season with this win over the Jets, but this loss was enough for the New York Jets to fire head coach Robert Saleh. Saleh, who was hired by the Jets in 2021, had a 20-36 record as the team's head coach, including a lackluster 2-3 start to this season. Defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich will become the team's interim head coach for the remainder of this season. Outside of the firing and the 2 undefeated teams, we had some pretty incredible games this weekend. Starting on Thursday night, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Atlanta Falcons squared off for another division rivalry matchup, and this game did not disappoint. Both teams swapped leads, scoring back and forth all game, and eventually forced the game to go into overtime. But just 1 minute and 15 seconds into overtime, Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins threw his 4th touchdown of the game to seal the win for Atlanta. Cousins finished his day going 42 for 58 with 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. Receiver Drake London led the way for the Falcons, finishing his day with 12 catches for 154 yards and a touchdown. Speaking of division rivalry games, coincidentally, there was another one this week that also went into overtime. The Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens met up for another heated rivalry game, and the Bengals were holding on to a 10-point lead in the final quarter. The play of the game came when the Ravens had the ball in the red zone, down 10 with a little over 5 minutes left in the game. Quarterback Lamar Jackson took the shotgun snap, fumbled it, dribbled it off the ground, picked it back up, stiff-armed a Bengals edge rusher, and threw an unbelievable crossbody touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely. A Justin Tucker field goal on the following drive would send the game into overtime, and that's where things got just flat-out wacky. Lamar Jackson fumbled again on the Ravens' opening drive in overtime, and the Bengals recovered in prime field position. After a few short run plays, kicker Evan McPherson trotted onto the field to kick the game winner. However, holder Ryan Recco fumbled the snap, and McPherson pulled his kick wide left. In the Ravens' ensuing drive, another prime Derrick Henry 50-yard rush set up the field goal for Justin Tucker, and a quick chip shot secured the victory for the Ravens. It was another great week across the NFL with some high-scoring games, overtime wins, upsets, and more. With that said, I'm right back to my old ways with my picks. The Seahawks were upset by the Giants, and the Cardinals pulled off the comeback against the 49ers. Luckily, the Vikings remained undefeated, and the Commanders continued to be the most electric team in the NFL. So I went 2-2 again, bringing me to 10-6 on the season. So I'll be going with the Bears over the Jaguars in London, Houston to beat the Patriots, the Eagles to pick up a win against the Browns, and the Detroit Lions to take down the Cowboys. Last week, I mentioned there were not that many great matchups in college football. On paper, there wasn't, but I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. The most chaotic week in college football saw Minnesota upset number 11 USC, Washington take down number 10 Michigan, number 25 Texas A&M blow out number 9 Missouri by 31 points, Arkansas defeat number 4 Tennessee by a narrow margin, and possibly the most shocking upset in recent history, Vanderbilt, yes, that Vanderbilt, upsetting the number 1 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Vanderbilt has lost all 60 games they have ever played against top 5 teams and haven't beaten Alabama in 40 years. But magic was in the air that day as the Commodores pulled off the 40-35 win. Following the historic win, Vanderbilt fans and students stormed the field, took down the goalpost, marched it through downtown Nashville, and tossed it into the Cumberland River. Exactly why it's impossible to not love college sports. That was an incredible week in college football, even though I said it wouldn't be. So, when I say that this upcoming week is slated to be one of the best, there's a chance I could jinx it and it will be boring. But that seems unlikely because there are some exciting matchups on the horizon. Starting out the mayhem will be one of the best rivalries in all of college sports, the Red River rivalry. The number 1 Texas Longhorns and number 18 Oklahoma Sooners will face off yet again in a heated matchup at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. Texas leads the overall series 63-51-5, but with nearly half of those wins coming before World War II. Since 2000, Oklahoma has dominated the series, winning 17 games to Texas 8, including the last 3 matchups. Texas will look to continue their undefeated season and beat Oklahoma for the first time since 2018. That game kicks off at 12:30 on ABC. Although USC is unranked now following their loss last week, their rivalry matchup with number 4 Penn State this weekend will still be a game to watch. That game also kicks off at 12:30 on CBS. Number 9 Ole Miss and number 13 LSU will play in another great game starting at 4:30 p.m. on ABC, and in my opinion, the best game of the week will be at 4:30 p.m. on NBC, where we have a showdown of 2 top 5 ranked teams. Number 2 Ohio State will travel to Eugene, Oregon to take on the number 3 ranked Oregon Ducks. Autzen Stadium is one of the loudest stadiums in all of sports, so Oregon will look to use the home field advantage in this heavy-hitting rematch of the 2014 National Championship game. The MLB playoff bracket is still raging on, and after the first 2 games, all of the 4 divisional series were tied at 1-1. On Tuesday in the National League, the Phillies traveled to New York to take on the Mets, and the Dodgers took the short trip down the 5 freeway to San Diego, both for Game 3. The Mets handled the Phillies 7-2 on Tuesday behind a dominant pitching outing from Sean Manaea, who pitched into the 8th inning and only gave up 3 hits. Game 4 was on Wednesday afternoon, and Francisco Lindor hit a grand slam in the 6th inning, and the New York Mets reached the National League Championship Series with a 4-1 victory over the Phillies to square off with either the Padres or the Dodgers in the next round. For that series, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s 2-run home run capped off a 6-run second inning, and the San Diego Padres held on to beat Shohei Ohtani and the rival Dodgers 6-5 on Tuesday night to take a 2-1 lead in a tense NL Division series. Game 4 of that series was also Wednesday night, and Mookie Betts homered for the 2nd straight night, Shohei Ohtani hit an RBI single, and the Dodgers beat the Padres 8-0 to force a series-deciding Game 5. That game will be tonight at 5 p.m. The ALDS games continued with Game 3 on Wednesday, when the Guardians traveled to Detroit and the Yankees went on the road to Kansas City. Giancarlo Stanton hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning, helping the Yankees beat the Kansas City Royals 3-2 on Wednesday in Game 3 to take a 2-1 lead in that series. Earlier in the day, the Detroit Tigers had 6 different pitchers hit the mound during their game, leading them to a 3-0 victory over the Cleveland Guardians, as Detroit took a 2-1 lead in that series. Game 4 for both of these AL series were last night. The Yankees have won their 2nd straight, earning their spot in the ALCS after defeating the Royals 3-2. The Cleveland Guardians were able to bounce back with a win, evening the series and forcing a Game 5, which will be tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Another playoff bracket is coming to a conclusion. Heading into Tuesday night, only 3 teams remain in the WNBA playoffs, as the New York Liberty have already earned their spot in the WNBA Finals after their series wins over Atlanta and Las Vegas, only losing 1 of their 6 games. On the other side of the bracket, the 3rd-seeded Connecticut Sun were looking to win their first WNBA title, and the number 2 seed Minnesota Lynx were seeking to become the first franchise in the league to win 5 titles. While the top-seeded New York Liberty beat the 2-time defending champion Las Vegas Aces last Sunday to advance to the finals, Connecticut beat Minnesota that night to force their series to go the distance and return to the Target Center in Minneapolis for Game 5 on Tuesday. Nafisa Collier had 27 points and 11 rebounds, and Courtney Williams contributed 24 points to lead the Minnesota Lynx past the Connecticut Sun 88-77 and into the WNBA Finals for the first time in 7 years. Game 1 of the WNBA Finals between the Lynx and the New York Liberty tipped off last night, and Game 2 will be Sunday at noon. Don't miss out on any of the finals action and see which team will be crowned champions. Speaking of champions, a number of Laguna Woods Village residents will be crowned champions in just a few short weeks. The Village Games are underway, and there are loads of events going on this weekend, including billiards, volleyball, table tennis, and so much more. Make sure to come out and support your friends and neighbors as they compete in the Village Games. As always, thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Sports Corner. Enjoy your weekend full of football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and more. Plus, good luck to all those competing in the Village Games this month. Come right back next weekend for more news, updates, and highlights. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Today's retirement is different. It's time to write new chapters in our life stories. To hit the open road in search of new horizons and fresh faces. Grand adventures or simple pleasures. It's not the final chapter in the book of life, but rather a new beginning, a second act.
Attention all club organizers, party planners, and those who simply love to gather and celebrate life's special moments. Are you tired of the hassle of cooking for your events? Looking for a convenient and delicious solution? Introducing our easy and convenient catering trays, perfect for groups of any size from 35 to 90. Need a larger space to host your event? Look no further than our restaurant's banquet room, the perfect venue for your next gathering. Call us today to place your catering order or reserve our banquet room for your next event. Create memories and traditions with Polly's Pies.
And welcome back to the show. Let's take a look at our movies. We have a great one starting today. It is going to be the Milagro Beanfield War. Chick Nera is starring in that one, and it's brought to us by Providence Mission Hospital. And it's going to be at 2 p.m. with the subtitles and 6 p.m. without the subtitles. And the story goes that the accidental breakdown of an irrigation valve launches a hot confrontation between the mainly Latino farmers in a tiny New Mexico town and the real estate developers and politicians determined to acquire their land for a golf resort. And that is a great movie back in the 80s. Robert Redford directed that one, so make sure you see that one if you haven't. If you have seen it, watch it again. Then on Saturday, we've got another great comedy. I love this one. It's one of my favorites from Will Ferrell. It is Semi-Pro. It's going to be Will Ferrell, Woody Harrelson, brought to us by Hogue. Going to be at 2 p.m. with the subtitles and 6 p.m. without the subtitles. The comedy is set in 1976, where Jackie Moon is a singer who used the profits from his one-hit wonder, Love Me Sexy. I'm not going to sing it, but he does in the movie. And he uses those monies to buy a professional basketball team from the American Basketball Association, the Flint Tropics. He becomes the owner, head coach, and starring power forward, and it's a great, fun comedy there, and you'll enjoy that one. Again, 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. All right, and let's take a quick check of the weather before we head out, and it's got to be a great weekend. You should enjoy it. Morning clouds going to peel off to afternoon sunshine today, and we're going to get up to close to 80 degrees, just maybe into some spots, but close to 80 degrees with great temperatures. Same thing for tomorrow. We're having the morning clouds and then the burn off, and then on Sunday we start a little cooling trend. As you can see, as we get into Tuesday, we're going to be highs only in the 60s, so 11 degree swing from today to next Tuesday. So enjoy the warmish temperatures while we have it, and then enjoy the fall as we go. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of This Day. Tomorrow on the program, Village Music Club and City Council candidate James Tong is going to be here as well, so make sure you join us for that. For all of us here at Village Television, we hope you make this day a great one.